Welcome to Stuff and Whiskey. I'm Josh.
And I'm Erin.
And today we're talking about store picks, single barrels, and why they matter.
Welcome to the channel, bringing real-world content to the real-world whiskey consumer.
Today we're talking about one of my absolute favorite topics in store picks. But before we get into that, Erin, how are you doing? Well, we know what you're drinking. We can see what you're drinking. But how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
We are coming off of a busy weekend, you and I. You guys won't see this until a couple weeks later, but this past weekend was Josh's birthday. So we did it up, and I am now on the decline. But I'm good. It's been a good
tired.
It's been a good weekend,
Yeah. We ate at Bastion. If you're familiar with Nashville, we ate at Bastion.
So good.
Did their tasting menu.
So good.
Highly recommend it if you're looking for like a big fill your plate type meal. That's not the spot to go.
Although I got full.
Yeah, but it's more experiential, like multi-course, and got to have some good wine pairings with it, and got to have some good whiskey afterwards. So yeah, it was a good time.
And the atmosphere is really cool there.
Yeah.
It's like in an old brick building, and I'm all about the exposed brick situation.
Yeah.
So I was right on my alley.
Yeah. And then after that, we went out to Bardstown Bourbon Company and did a tour for them. And I'll throw in a couple photos here, but we did the Honey Spot Whiskey thieving tour, where anyways, the point being is we went into the Rick House and they had 3 barrels set out, a wheated bourbon, just a standard rye-based bourbon, and then a rye whiskey. And they let us try all 3 of those straight from the barrel. I think the wheated bourbon was 3 years old. The regular rye bourbon was 2 years old. And then the rye whiskey was 4 years old. Really good stuff straight from the barrel. Yeah. Really, really good. Like that was a fun little trip. So brought home a couple bottles from the motherland of Kentucky, and yeah, it was a good birthday weekend.
Yeah.
We're just a little short on sleep, but we're filming and drinking whiskey tonight. So
what's not to love about that?
What better way? What we're drinking tonight, as you can see, and as we have told you we're discussing, is single barrel store picks, or not necessarily. Single barrels and store picks aren't synonymous, but they do often go hand in hand.
Gotcha.
So what we have here is we have regular Buffalo Trace, just as you would find on the shelf, and we have 2 different single barrel expressions, and we'll say how we came about those. And then here we have Woodford Reserve Double Oak, and then here we have a single barrel of Woodford Reserve Double Oak.
But these single barrel, each one of these is a store pick from a different store.
Right.
So let's back up a second. Can you explain what a store pick is?
Buffalo Trace, Woodford Reserve Double Oak, these are products that the distilleries, they take barrels that they've allotted to these products, they dump them all together. Who knows how many barrels it is? It could be hundreds, it could be thousands, it could be tens of thousands for all we know. But they take all these barrels, they dump them all together and blend them up and make this product.
And that's what you get when you go to the store.
Right.
Gotcha.
There are exceptions to that in that stores or bourbon groups, which this came from a store, this came from a bourbon group, and this came from a bourbon group. These stores in these bourbon groups, what they can do is they can go to Buffalo Trace or they can go to Woodford Reserve and they can pick a barrel. The distilleries that have these single barrel programs, the way it works is you go through a store, whether the store itself is going to pick the barrel, or if you're a bourbon group that is going to the distillery to pick a barrel, you have to do it through a store.
Okay.
You have to have a liquor license to go do it.
Like a sponsor almost through the store.
Essentially,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So let's say I run a bourbon group and I want that bourbon group to be able to pick their own barrel. What I will do is I will go to a store that I have a relationship with, probably should have a relationship with the store if you're asking for something like this.
Yeah.
And you go to Woodford or you go to Buffalo Trace, and they have these single barrel programs where they will set out barrels for you to pick from.
So you try the whiskey?
You do, right there at the distillery. That's the way it's normally run. The past year or so, with things being a little crazy in the world, they have started mailing out samplers. Like they'll mail you out 3 or 4 samples to try, and you pick your barrel that way.
Okay.
But what you're doing is you're taking a product like this or that could have thousands, if not tens of thousands of barrels batched into it, and you're picking from 3 or 4 or more barrels that the distillery has tested, they've tasted it, and they'll say these barrels qualify for our single barrel program, and then you go to the distillery or they send you samples, and those are the barrels that you pick from. And so instead of getting these big batch products, you get these single barrel expressions, and you can get slight differences from the batch products, the standard on the shelf products. And sometimes you can get wild variances that are very off profile, and different stores pick different things based on their own preferences. Some stores in your area may pick based on they want something that's completely off profile and unique from the standard product. Other stores may pick based on a very similar profile, but just cranked up a little bit.
Gotcha.
So because this is a batch product and this is a batch product, it can have a range of ages in the blend. Buffalo Trace may average out to be about an 8-year average blend, but it could have whiskey as young as 6 or maybe even younger than that. But if you get a single barrel product, then sometimes you can get a single barrel that is older and therefore has some different characteristics, maybe a little bit more depth, maybe a little bit more richness. You know, it just really depends on what the distillery makes available to the people picking the barrels.
Will you know if you were the store going to pick it, will you know how old the barrel is?
Some distilleries do disclose that information.
Okay.
And I'm sure some don't.
Gotcha. So that's up to the distillery.
It is up to the distillery, yeah. And a lot of them will. A lot will. So whether you as the consumer find that information out or not depends. These Buffalo Trace products, these Woodford products, they don't say. There's nowhere we can look on these bottles and see that it's an X amount of years in the barrel.
Gotcha.
But we do have other store picks that we don't have a standard on the shelf offering for.
Yeah.
Knob Creeks tell you exactly when it was barreled, when it was bottled. You know, a lot of different distilleries will tell you what the age of the barrel is. So that's pretty cool from a nerdy standpoint if you like to keep up with that information.
Well, I want to taste it. Can we get into the tasting part?
So yeah, we can get into the tasting. And as you see this laid out here, what you're seeing standard Buffalo Trace here. You're seeing a store pick by Iroquois Wine and Spirits in Bellevue, Tennessee. And then here we have a single barrel store pick that a bourbon group did, United by Bourbon. A shout out to Zach Vernon for hooking us up with this bottle. And this, really cool story behind this bourbon group. Guys were all over the place. They got United by Bourbon, hence the name of the group,
cool.
United by Bourbon. Yeah, so really cool. So we've got 3 different versions of Buffalo Trace here, and we can see both how these stack up to the standard Buffalo Trace and how these 2 store picks differ. And they went through Port Royal Liquors here in Spring Hill, Tennessee to do this pick. Okay. That's how they got that. So it was a bourbon group that had to go through a local store to get it. These 2 products is standard Woodford Reserve Double Oak. This is a store pick that was done through the Nashville Bourbon Social Club, a local bourbon group here, and they did it through Red Wine and Spirits in Bellevue, Tennessee as well. So the far left glass on your screen is going to be the standard product. Every other glass is a store pick.
Okay.
So we're going to share glasses here. I've already got her cooties because we're married.
Gross.
But Erin, I'll let you go first on the Buffalo Trace, and we're just going to work our way down the line.
So this is regular off-the-shelf Buffalo Trace.
Regular off-the-shelf Buffalo Trace. We're not doing anything super scientific here. We're just showing you guys the difference that we see when we try these products.
I'm just going to...
So she's getting her baseline here, kind of doing a little bit of comparative testing. And while she's doing this, before she comments...
Hurry up.
Okay, she's ready to comment. Go ahead.
This has got a little more kick to it.
Yeah.
This first store pick.
Yeah.
You try it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. So the other point I wanted to highlight before we actually get into the tasting stuff is one of the cool things about store picks is that a lot of stores, at least in our area, and I would imagine in a lot of areas, the good stores around the Nashville area, they will have, if they have a store pick, they will have a sample bottle open and you can actually try it. So if you go into a liquor store and you're looking around and you don't have any clue what you want to buy, it can be a little overwhelming. And you can look at a bunch of different bottles and not really know what any of them are going to taste like if you've not tried them before. But if it's a store that has store picks, I would recommend asking the spirits manager, or if they have a tasting bar, see if they have open bottles that you can sample. It is the only time in whiskey that I can think of where you can actually try before you buy for absolutely no cost. They'll give you a little splash in a glass, like it's not a shot, it's not enough to do anything really, but you can at least get a feel for what the taste is like before you actually spend your money on the product. Which is, to me, it's why these are the best thing going in bourbon, because when else can you try before you buy when it comes to whiskey?
It's true. So
all right, so tell me what you were getting in a difference between the standard Buffalo Trace and that one.
That was very smooth. The standard was very smooth, and like I drank it and it was good. I didn't have any reaction. And this one, I drank it right after it and it was like, whoa, it's still good. It has a lot of flavor, but it has that kick. Oh, this one smells sweet. So this is the Iroquois store pick. So
you're on the United by Bourbon,
okay,
Port Royal pick. I'm on the Iroquois.
Ooh, that's tamed down. Ooh, this is like sweet tea.
We know which one's her favorite. Yeah, this Iroquois pick is definitely more rich even on the nose. You can smell it. If I had to guess, it would be that it's an older single barrel.
Ooh, I like this one.
Yeah. Way more oak. Way more oak on the,
is that
on the
what
Iroquois.
Gives you so it's so funny because these two to me taste like completely different.
And that's the point. They're both single barrels of the same product, but the barrel itself is what influences the flavor of the whiskey more than anything else. So this is the exact same recipe, the same mash bill, but just two different barrels, potentially, at least definitely in two different parts of the warehouse that they were stored in, if not completely different warehouses. Yeah. Even if they were barrels that were exactly side by side, they could still differ in their taste. So the cool thing about this is, for a nerd like me, you can get some variance and you can see how things change as you work through barrels.
Can I say something that might be like against bourbon rules?
Sure.
After trying the store picks, this does not taste very good. It tastes watery. Is that bad to say?
Oh, yeah.
Can I finish
that is more...
Can I finish this one?
Yeah, that's definitely more leaning on the sweet side.
But it's
sweet.
It's not sugary
silky.
sweet.
Right,
it's not like, ooh, I'm going to feel sick drinking this sweet, because I don't like that. I don't like the sugary, syrupy sweet. This is just like a light, sweet tea, like light and I like
sweet and silky on the United by Bourbon.
Yeah.
Oaky and heavy on the Iroquois store pick, and then going back to the regular Buffalo Trace.
So is Buffalo Trace a bourbon that people like? Like, is it one that's sought after?
Yeah, people really like Buffalo Trace. Going back to the regular Buffalo Trace after trying these two store picks, it tastes a little sour.
For me, it just tasted watery.
It does taste watered down, and it tastes a little sour. These are all the same proof. These are all 90 proof, but the store picks, those single barrels, just have a little bit more character.
Yeah.
That could be a lot of reasons. I don't profess to be a professional taster, nor do you. That's kind of the whole point of this channel.
Definitely not.
Is that we're just hanging out and having fun like we would be with friends, except we're doing it with you friends.
You're our friends.
Yeah, so, we're not... I could say that it might be the fact that this has younger whiskey blended into it that makes it a little bit more watery, and maybe it doesn't have as much, going on with it, because these are all the same proof point and they're the same recipe. Theoretically, they should be the same, but they're not. They're all three wildly different. Yeah.
Question.
Yes, in the back.
Price-wise, are they wildly different as well?
So store picks will usually carry like about a $5 a bottle premium.
That's not bad.
No, and it can be less actually for our market. For Buffalo Trace, a lot of stores mark it up because so many people look for it. So the Buffalo Trace bottles that are around here could be marked up. Typically, it's a $25 bottle. I think a lot of stores mark it up closer to $30, $28. These store picks are $30.
Okay.
So not much. And a lot of organizations, like for instance, Nashville Bourbon Social Club, they do mark their store picks up, but then they give that money to charity.
Gotcha.
So
that's cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
One of the best things about this is probably the local bourbon club that I'm most involved in. These guys are new and they're a smaller group of friends. This is a bigger...
Well, they picked a good one as far as I'm concerned.
They did pick a good one. That might be Erin's new favorite bottle.
Can I join y'all's group, guys?
All right, so we've determined that the Buffalo Trace is wildly different.
Yes.
You have a favorite here. You have the United by Bourbon. I like both of these substantially more than the regular Buffalo Trace, and it would be in the mood that I was in.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great summertime sip right here.
For sure.
This is a little bit more heavy tasting and oaky, and it's wild that they're all 90 proof. So let's get into these Woodford Reserve Double Oak picks.
Okay.
Woodford Reserve Double Oak, I'll have to look and remind myself, 90.4 proof. So this is very similar.
I think this was 90 proof, yeah.
The only difference we're going to have here is this is a double oaked product. It's been put into a second set of barrels to give it a little bit more richness, a little bit more sweetness. So you're going to get that. One of the things, we're going to get Erin on the regular.
Yeah, let me get a sip of water first.
Get her on the regular Woodford Reserve. I want to point out one thing that a lot of stores or groups do with their store picks when they get one of these things is they do these fun stickers. So this is the Chocolate Wintry Lucky Charms. It says chocolatey vanilla with woody oak flavors. So the National Bourbon Social Club, this group, what they do is they kind of come up with a sticker that's kind of in line with the flavor profile and then put a spin on it. So
it's usually like a fun sticker.
Yeah, so they just stick this on there. That's something separate and apart from the distillery. They don't do that, but you can see NBSC, National Bourbon Social Club. That's who picked it. But a lot of stores around town get these Woodford Reserve Double Oak picks.
Can I smell them side by side?
Yeah, absolutely. I've not had this yet. We opened this for this episode.
Yeah.
And this
smells like a cigar. Like
really?
Like
tobacco?
Like a tobacco a little bit.
Yeah.
But like, you know how like when you're a kid and like your great grandpa smoked a cigar or something, it was like a good smell.
Yeah.
Like a reminiscent smell.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of smells like. My great grandpa just
So these smell different.
I mean, similar, but this one, the store pick one, has more of a potent smell.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying.
Like I said, I think store picks are the best thing going in bourbon right now, particularly because in our local market, there's so many stores that get really good picks, and then you can try them before you buy them. This is going to be market dependent. You're going to have times where if you're in a smaller market, or maybe your stores don't have those relationships with the distilleries, you might not be able to get as much access. But there are ways around that. Like, you can try to reach out to other stores, and you can get involved in groups that could potentially have a little bit more sway for a store pick.
Ooh, I can get kind of the chocolatey Lucky Charms. There's not, in my opinion, there's not as big of a taste of a flavor difference in these two than there were in these. These were very different, all three of them.
Oh yeah. This is just a regular Woodford here, but I always get a lot of like a mapley syrup sweetness on the back end of Woodford Reserve Double Oak. It's just really, really sweet.
Try this one. I feel like they're very similar to me. They smell different, but they taste very similar.
Yeah. And that's what you can have. Like, you can have store picks that wildly differ. You can have single barrels that are very close and very on profile. And a lot of that comes down to who the person is picking. And a lot of it comes down to the barrels that the distillery makes available to you.
Gotcha.
Wild Turkey and their Russell's Reserve picks, they're notorious for rolling out all the barrels that you want until you find the one that you want.
Really?
Whereas other distilleries, they'll say, here's your 3 barrels, pick between them. That's what you get, or you can go home empty-handed. So it kind of helps to know that, at least I think it helps to know that you're working with a store or a group that will turn down the barrel if it's not a good barrel. So you got to know, as anything, buyer beware, educate yourself. But you've got to know that you're working with people who will not just take whatever's given to them if it's not good and then turn around and sell it to you. So we're very fortunate to have groups in this town that really take care of their customers and their members.
I'm curious to see what you think of this one.
Yeah, they do taste similar. They do, but this one gets that chocolatiness on the finish.
Like just on the back.
Yeah, oh,
like
it's still there.
Yeah.
And the finish is longer on this one.
Okay.
But they are close in flavor profile. So that is very interesting. I would say that the biggest difference here is between this Iroquois single barrel and the standard Buffalo Trace. There's a wide margin here.
Yep.
This and this are a little bit more close, but this is like this, but without the sourness that kind of is there in an odd way, and the watered downness. It's like, this is a better version of this.
I agree.
And then these two, this is a better version than this.
So basically, store picks are just like wild cards. Like it's kind of like you're just playing the lotto, and you might get a really good one that you like, and you might get one that you don't really like, and you won't know until you try it.
Yeah, but again, if you have a store that has a sample bottle open that you can try before you buy, then winner, chicken dinner. There,
I was just
you already
thinking
know.
that same thing.
It's a win-win. And if you don't like it, you got to have a little bit of bourbon and you go home empty-handed. No big deal.
Yeah.
No skin off your back. But I think one of the coolest things about this is that you do get that variance. Like if you have a product that you really like let's say you really like Buffalo Trace or you really like Woodford Reserve Double Oak. Say you really like one of these products and you keep a bottle of it on hand, it can be really cool to keep a store pick around as well, just to show people, if you have guests over, to show them the difference between a batch product and a single barrel product.
Mm-hmm. So a fun, not game to play, but kind of a cool thing to do. Yeah,
I mean, all this is for fun, right? So why not enjoy yourself? Why not have a little experiment with friends from time to time? So I really like this store pick of Woodford Reserve. Regular Woodford Reserve Double Oak is great. This is just like a little bit better.
Yeah, really like ever so slightly. I think those are both really good.
Yeah, this chocolate on the back end, it reminds me of a chocolate chip cookie. I made some chocolate chip cookies for my birthday weekend.
Because he's the cook in the family.
I'm being a little bit of a pig. But look, let me tell you guys, just go get some Nestle's Toll House chocolate chip cookie dough, break it off in 2 squares and ball them up together, crack some sea salt on top of it, and then shove some butterscotch chips and some bacon bits in there, and then cook it. Trust me, cook it for 15 minutes or so until they start to get a little brown. Tell you what, that's what this reminds me of. I get the chocolate on the back end.
Don't get too heavy on the bacon bits though. Those are just accents. You don't want the flavor. Sorry, there's a gnat flying.
We'll do it live.
We're all friends here, right? Don't go heavy on the bacon bits, but just a little bit, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, that chocolate on the back end is.
Can I have another sip of that?
Makes this preferable to me.
I would drink both of these and this.
Yeah.
Over these two. This one is it's an honorable mention, but the regular Buffalo Trace probably my least favorite of the night.
Yeah, and that's a product that tasted in a vacuum. It's a good product. There's nothing wrong with Buffalo Trace.
When I tasted it first, great,
solid bourbon for the money.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can get your hands on a single barrel product like this, you might be able to get something that is either a little bit more polished or a little bit more oomph. And it's I would have guessed that this is how we would have picked based on our own personal preferences.
Oh, really?
I like a little bit more oomph.
Yeah.
You like a little bit more of a polished, easy sipping. So awesome. So this was really fun. Yeah. It wasn't blind. We've done these blind before. We didn't think that doing this blind would really serve anything in particular. Yeah. We can tell if these are different or not, and we don't have to be blind for that. But what we will do is we will put these two in our bracket.
In our double blind bracket for a blind head-to-head. So these two Woodford ones?
Yes, and we'll also do one of the Buffalo Trace pairings as well. So that is to be discussed off camera. We'll figure that out.
Okay.
All right, so that's it for this week, guys, for our regular topic. Let's get into other stuff. Erin, do you have other stuff this week?
I do have other stuff.
Okay.
I would like to provide an update.
Oh.
So in one of our previous episodes, we'll put the card up here. I think it's up here to which one it was. I talk about the show Schitt's Creek that we'd started watching, and it was recommended, and I just was not into it. I didn't like the characters. They had no redeeming qualities. I would watch the show out of obligation because he wanted to watch it.
Because I heard it was good, but it was a little bit of a slog.
I also heard it was good by people that I valued their television, opinions.
Their prowess.
Yeah. So, we just started the 4th season now, I think.
When we said we weren't 100% committed to it, we were about halfway through season 2.
Season 2. And it took until the very last episode of season 2 for me to see a glimmer of hope. And then somewhere along the way in season 3, I turned from not wanting to watch it to actually enjoying it and wanting to watch it. So, I'm into it. We're into season 4. I'm in it to win it. We're going to finish it. So that is my other stuff update.
Which we've got personal opinions on the fact that you shouldn't drag an audience along for...
You shouldn't expect your audience to stick with you for 2 full seasons.
That's a long time for people who are busy to be asked to buy into characters before things start turning. Like, you know, I get it. I get why they did it that way. A lot of times we tune out far prior to that.
Yeah, I would have tuned out had it not been from the people that I respected them telling me that it was good.
Yeah. But it is worth sticking around for. We can say that now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we had to deal with 2 bad seasons to get to 4 good seasons.
Well, they weren't bad seasons. I had no interest in the people.
There was no buy-in.
There was no buy-in.
On balance, asking someone to sit through 2 seasons to get to 4 good seasons, that's, I mean, I don't know how many episodes are in a season. We probably should have done our homework before hitting the record button, but, you know.
That's not how we roll. That's not how I roll.
So, nonetheless, it was hours of commitment before we got into what was good. But it is very good.
But we're there, and it's good. And if you have started it, and you're like, just, is this gonna get any better? It does get better, I promise.
And my other stuff this week, I will circle back to the chocolate chip cookies with the bacon bits and the sea salt.
Okay.
So I will link in the description below a guy that wins a lot of barbecue competitions here in the Nashville area, Memphis area with his baby back ribs, Mojo Barbecue. I'll link his video where I found this whole thing about putting bacon bits in your chocolate chip cookies. But look, if you're like me and you're not trying to whip them up from scratch, just go get some Nestle's Toll House chocolate chip cookie dough, make some larger balls with them, and then mix the bacon bits and crack the sea salt on top of that. And I like to put butterscotch chips in there too.
I could do without the butterscotch, but he's made them before, just chocolate chips with the bacon bits, and that's good too.
So you can at least see ratio-wise, like, it doesn't take much on the bacon bits. They just add like a nice savory flavor to go along with the chocolate, and that's what this Woodford Reserve Double Oak actually reminds me of, is that. So that'll be in the description below as well. And we'll link Schitt's Creek as well. We linked it in the previous episode, but we'll link that too in case you didn't see that one, or you wanna go back and watch it, give it another chance,
give it another shot,
like we had to. So, all right, that's it for this week. Erin, take us out of here.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, hit that thumbs up button. Also, subscribe to our channel, and you can hit the bell notification to be notified, so that way you don't miss any of our videos.
If you want.
I suggest it.
If you don't, you're a horrible person, but...
No, you're not. You're fine. You're just like everyone else. It's okay.
All right. Until next week, guys. Cheers.
Cheers. I mean, it's true.
That was good.
No one does those things.
That was good.